Happy Saturday. I'm Carrie. This is Student Loan Chit-Chat. This is from the Dave Ramsey Show 1 year ago called My Rent is Going Up 62%. This call is from Tampa, which is right where I am located. So let's hear what she has to say here. And of course, no line, no waiting, so let's just get to it. And it's being played on 1.25 speed.
Meredith is in Tampa, Florida. Hi, Meredith. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing all right. How are you?
Better than I deserve. What's up?
So, found out last night that my rent is going to be increasing by 62% once my lease is up from
Good Lord.
$1,050, to $1,700 a month. So I'm
A 62% rent hike. Well, it seems absurd because it is. Unfortunately, at least in the Tampa area, within about 2 to 3 years, most prices were up nearly 100%. The fact that she had 62% all in one jump might be a bit unusual, but the fact that it's gone up 62% is not.
I'm currently working the baby steps on baby step 2, and I wouldn't be house poor per se. I would still have a little bit, but my shovel would be drastically dented.
That's pretty amazing. Yeah. So you're paying what, like $1,100 now?
Yeah, $1,100 now.
Were you under? You think you were under the market before, or the market has just jumped that much?
I think maybe a little bit of both.
Excuse me. I've lived in Tampa since early 2000. When I got my own apartment after I got divorced in 2013, I lived in a 675 square foot place, no washer dryer, just a modest standard 1 bedroom apartment. My rent when I moved in 2013 was $700 a month. By the time I left, almost 7 years later in 2020, it had only gone from $700 a month to, let's just round it off to $1,000. It was like $950. So we're talking a 7 year period. It went up barely $300 a month in 7 years. Purchased this little abode in 2020. In early 2020, this place is 840 square feet, and I purchased it. My apartment rent that I used to live at, that went from $700 to $1,000 in 2020, is now renting at approximately $1,800 to $1,900 a month. And it's only about 2 miles from where I'm currently at. So you're talking from $1,000 to $1,800, $1,900. Huge increase. And they've done nothing fancy and nothing special, because I have a gal pal who also lives at that unit still. Fortunately, she bought her unit early 2000s, when they were going, everybody was going apartment to condo. Remember that era, people? Okay. So she actually bought her unit for like $50,000. Today it'd sell for about $200,000. But yeah, so my place, if I were renting today, would be $1,800-$1,900. And that's before utilities and all of that. And I'll be honest, for a lot of teachers, that's more than we take home in a paycheck.
Honestly, I feel like I've looked around since then, and it looks like everything in this area, like people are just flooding to Florida, and so I think it's just driving up. And most things are comparable to this.
I agree with her. It's part of people are coming to Florida, but I'll be honest, I think a lot of it is part greed, just sheer greed. Okay. But the other part too was tons and tons of landlords were basically told, evictions were all halted, and you had people, not paying rent. Okay, people that could have probably paid rent chose not to. It's a whole salad of different causes as to why the rent is so high. And I can tell you, 100%, she's correct. It's just what's surprising is her rent went up 62% in one leap. I mean, usually, they take maybe 2-3 years to get you there, but either way, they're going to get you there. It's absolutely absurd what rent is in Tampa.
$1,700 amount that's coming around. So
you either move down in quality of house
Yeah.
or location, or you accept the increase.
And it really doesn't even matter where the location is. It really, really doesn't. You can try to go to the outskirts of Tampa. Okay, so maybe you can, save some rent there, but now you're going to increase your gas bill, big time, because now you got to commute it. And I have neighbors in my condo area. There's a couple, and they are renters. They were actually going to move to a house, and they were like, you know what, we just want to get out of living in a condo and all that apartment style living, and I don't blame them. Okay, move, go rent a house. and it was going to save them $400 a month. That was going to be less expensive. But by the time they calculated the 2 hour a day commute back and forth, they were like, we're going to break even. We're not going to save a single thing. So we might as well just keep renting and live, 10 minutes from work.
Basically, yeah. And a lot of the apartment complexes around here are income restricted, so it's too much to move there, but also we'll be pretty strapped here. So.
And if her place was $1,700 a month a year ago, I guarantee it to you, it's gone up at least $100, at least.
Wanted to get your input. Would you sign the lease given the way the housing market is? The only thing I would wonder, the caveat to that, is if I don't sign the lease and I go month to month, it's a $100 difference, which I feel like is pretty low for not signing the lease. So I don't know if it's...
I agree with her. Only $100 difference for not signing a lease. That is true. I've seen much worse impact of, $300-400 a month more.
Seems like maybe it would be best to hold off, pay the extra $100 a month, and if it seems like the market's going to go out.
What's your household income?
$70,000.
Whew.
Okay. To give it some perspective, because I pretty much understand her dollars. Okay, with my little part-time job. Okay. My little part-time job, I do about 10 hours a week, plus my main income. I'm probably pulling in about $65K. Okay, so I'm not far different from where she's at. All right, I have a pretty good idea where she's at. 5,000 isn't that big of an income difference, and I can tell you, I would be hard pressed to pay $1,800 a month for rent, because you have to remember something, especially here in Tampa. For those of you who might be, you're online, you're looking at prices. You have to remember that, at least in Tampa, the prices that you see for rent in the brochures, ads, and whatnot, you need to keep in mind a couple of things. Forget the low price that you see. You'll see one-bedroom apartment, I'm going to use today's dollars, okay, anywhere from $1,400 to $2,000. Budget it closer to the 2,000 mark. Okay, because they never seem to have the low prices when you actually go looking. And I've been a renter more than I've owned property. The other thing you have to remember in Tampa, and I don't know if it applies in other parts of the country, but it wouldn't surprise me if it did, the price that you see in any apartment advertisement does not include when you sit down to sign for your 1-year lease, and then they spring it on you. Oh, and we have pest control, which is usually really lousy. Get your own pest control, because it's horrible. Okay, I have my own private pest control and I love it. Okay, it doesn't include your pest control. It doesn't include your garbage. If they charge you water, they're probably going to charge you 1.5 times of what you would pay if you owned a place. It's amazing. My water bill here never goes above $45 dollars a month, and I do laundry every single solitary day, all right, because I exercise a lot and I want clean clothes. But when I was renting, it's like, oh, we need to charge you $60 a month for water. And I'm like, for one person. And I did not own a washer and dryer in my unit either. It was just a community washer and dryer, but yet I was charged $60 a month for water. So you have to remember, the price that you see, if you're coming to Tampa, you have to add on anywhere from 100 to 150 above what you're actually looking at, and never plan on getting the lowest rate. Okay, so if they give you a fluctuating price between, we got, 3-bedroom, we have 3-bedroom, what is it? Apartments, and here's the low price, here's the high price. Lo and behold, it'll never be the low price that's available. This woman's in my stomping ground, so that's kind of cool.
Wow.
Is it a 1-bedroom, and are you living alone?
So it's a 2-bedroom, and I have been looking for a roommate because I'm trying to really go cheetah intense and all that fun stuff for maybe step 2.
Absolutely. If you can find a roommate, do it. But the hard part is you need somebody that you can get along with. And I'll be honest, I don't think it has to be a friend. Everybody thinks you should bunk with friends. Sometimes I think it's better. I've been very fortunate. I've not had to have a roommate, okay? Basically, if I wasn't in a relationship with somebody, okay, I just don't do roommates. But if I had to have a roommate, I would look for it more on a business end than a friendship end. Friends don't always make the best roommates. I think of maybe 2-3 people I know that I would be willing to room with if I absolutely had to. I don't know too many other people. Instead, I would look more for a business partner relationship. You don't have to be best friends. Chill every weekend together. Okay, it's a business arrangement. And I would tell anybody, if you are, especially if you're alone, and you're paying $1,800 to $1,900 a month rent. I mean, for a lot of people in Tampa, guys, the income here isn't that high. Forget the sunshine. You get sick of it after a while, okay? You do. I mean, my arthritis likes it, okay? But forget, sun. What is the sun if you can't afford to do anything because all your money's going to rent?
Which would have been great before, but now almost feels like it's more than breaking even, but it kind of feels like it's a lot less months if I were to get a roommate.
So
But I'm
how
still
much
looking
longer do you
either way.
have with this baby step 2, with this increased rent? How much longer do you think it'll take?
With the increased rent, I haven't run the numbers. I, again, just found out last night. So currently it stands I should be done by February of 2024, and that's without a roommate, without a side hustle.
What do you do for a living?
I'm an executive assistant.
Okay. How far are you from work?
I am in my living room right now.
Oh,
so I get to work remotely, thankfully.
Okay, so it's remote.
Okay, so that kind of helps. I will tell you about remote jobs. I have mixed feelings about remote jobs. I always feel like I read an article once about it and said remote jobs can be great, but a downside of it is kind of like out of the office, out of mind. And, not to put fear in anybody, but, I do a lot of news reading. And one of the things I've read is sometimes remote workers are some of the easiest to let go because no accommodations other than disconnect really has to be made. So something to think about is I think for job security, I think remote jobs that require you to show up, a day or two really isn't a bad thing as far as, you see me, okay, here I am, I'm real. Just something to think about.
Yeah.
You could do some extra virtual assisting on the side. If that's something you want to do to get the income up right now, I would probably also get a roommate if you're cool with that for a year to speed up the process, because that's just a long time to remain in baby step 2 and not knowing what the market's going to do with rent.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you in all my experiences and years of renting, rent never drops. I don't care what the market does. And like I said, I have rented more than I have owned by decades. Okay, the market that any rental place I've been in, it doesn't matter. What the market does. Rent never drops ever. I've never had a notice on my door that says, "Hey, congratulations, Carrie, you've paid your rent on time. You've lived here for 5, 7 years, whatever. We're going to drop you $50." It doesn't drop. So I think unless she's looking to buy a house or something, then maybe the market comes into play. But as far as just renting itself, no.
Agreed. So you would sign then and just continue to add
No,
on?
no, not yet. I mean, you've known about this for 24 hours. So
Right.
I'm going to, how long will they give you to make your decision?
So I have until the 31st
Good.
because it needs to be a 60-day notice. However, if I don't, I have to do a 30-day notice from that point onward. From May 31st onward. So, hypothetically.
Yeah, I would say
June 1st,
between now and the
but-
31st you have a new hobby, and that's looking at rentals.
Yeah. Which has been a fun hobby the last 12
you
hours,
scanned
but-
the market enough to ascertain that this is not, they're not gigging you, that this is just the new price in the marketplace. They're,
As a matter of fact, her 1,700 for the 2-bedroom today is a good deal. 1-bedrooms are running 18 to 2,000, and we're talking no frills, folks. No frills.
they're not being crooks or something like that. They've not done anything wrong.
No, they're being crooks. Let's come on, okay? They're being crooks. I have a hard time justifying a 1-bedroom. My old place, 675 square feet, $1,800. Oh, and by the way, I went in there about a year after I left to do sort of a sleuthing. Journalism is my background, and that liberal arts degree that didn't pay much. But I did go sleuthing and actually tried to apply there. And just to give you some reality, okay, here I've been a teacher. At the time I went sleuthing, I had been a teacher for 17 years, and I applied at my old apartment without telling them because the turnover rate in the office was ridiculous, or is ridiculous. And I thought, let's just see how easy I could get into my apartment now that's 1,800. I did not qualify. I did not qualify because I didn't make 3 times the rent. And I was sitting just a hair above 6, maybe a hair under 60 at the time. Okay, so she's at 70, so she's solid in making 3 times the rent, barely. So her 1,700, I'm sure that place is up. This is from a year ago. That place is hitting 18, if not 1,900 by now. But that's how ridiculous it is. They actually told me I didn't qualify. I never told them that I was applying for the place I had just moved out of a year ago. But they were like, no, you don't qualify because you don't make 3 times the rent, but you would need a co-signer. buy some expletives for that. I would need a cosigner to get back into my old apartment. With 17 years at the time of teaching under my belt and a credit score of approximately 750.
Long, and you don't have a lot of options that are readily apparent, but that's 24 hours worth of research. So,
Right.
I really think I'm going to go looking for that garage apartment out back of some rich old lady's house or something.
I have to be honest, that's exactly what I'd be doing too. I swear, that is what I'd be doing. I actually told a couple of my friends here in Tampa, I said, if I had to, I would go looking for somebody who had a really decent house, maybe some detached place, all right, that I could rent. I don't even care if it's a legal rental or not. Don't care, okay? As long as I can get out in case in the event of a fire, all right? I would be doing that. And I'd be the best quiet little renter because I'm never around much, all right? That's what I would do. Because if you can get a rental by a private person who might even be doing it slightly under the table, hey, your secret's safe with me, all right? If you can rent like a room, especially if it's detached garage or something like that from a private rental, chances are not only are you going to save a whole lot of money, you are not going to deal with the ridiculous rental increases. It's when you go for the big corporate rental units, the standard apartment where, one eviction on your records, spreads like a web through the entire, cross-country communication. So if you can rent from a situation like that, the problem is they're really hard to find because they're typically done somewhat under the table, so it can be a friend to a friend. Don't be afraid to let your friends know, hey, you know what? I'm looking for a room to rent. Something to think about.
Thing that that's 10 or 15 miles further out of your center of normal behaviors.
Okay.
That's a little bit less convenient, but is half the price. I'm going to look for that needle in a haystack for a little while. I'm not going to bet my life on it, but I mean, boy, if you could land something back down around $1,000 that was tolerable and was safe and clean and that kind of stuff, if it was a little bit inconvenient, I'd rather do that.
The problem that you do need to be aware of, if you go into a private rental, never, ever, ever, like you're renting a place out of someone's house. First off, never, ever, ever, because I've done it, okay, years ago. Never, ever, ever pay them more than the minimum required. That might be first month, last month. Don't pay in advance, okay? Don't pay months of rent in advance. Here's why. Sometimes people are in that situation, are nearing foreclosure. You do not want to have given them, oh, you know what, this place is so affordable, I can pay you 3 months in advance. You pay 3 months in advance, and then you find out they're in a foreclosure. So you might want to do a little bit of checking that the place you're getting into, the owners of the place are solid. Okay, that they don't have, a near foreclosure, they're not behind. You might want to do some checking around. But either way, never pay more than the rent that is currently due month to month.
But you're not going to find that in the first 24 hours. You're going to spend some time and effort to find that property, if it even exists. I'm not saying it does 100% of the time, but one of my rules on decision making is when I have two possible options and both of them suck, I don't yet have enough options.
That's a fair point. Okay.
So I want to put more options on the table, even if they're uncomfortable for other reasons.
Sure.
Other than just price. The price is right, but it's uncomfortable because of ...
Honestly, trying to find that needle in a haystack rental, it's going to be pretty hard. And like I said, as far as this $1,700, this place is $1,800, $1,900 a month now. Pretty much guarantee it. ...
And I don't know whether the ... is tolerable or not. But after that, I'm with George. Yeah, I'll pick up extra work and take in a roommate and try to find another way to get at this housing angle.
Isn't it ridiculous that people who have worked to even get to this income bracket? I mean, I have 18 years in teaching, hold 2 masters, which we of course know did not financially pay off. Educationally, it was fun to learn, but not financially. But the fact that people can be this far along in their profession and what would have once been considered, okay, you did a good job. We're now looking for, mommy to co-sign. I know people who've had to move back home with their kids. I know people who have had a $600 a month increase in one rental shot like this lady has. This is stupid. It's absolutely stupid. Here we are in the 67, 50, 60, 70, even 40. Okay, I'll even take the 40s. 50, 60, 70,000 a year, and we're having to live like college students. We're looking for roommates, and we're taking on 2 jobs. let me backtrack with my 56-year-old age here and take us back to the 70s and 80s. When I was growing up, my parents had 4 kids, 2 cars. We had modest summer vacations, to go camping, and almost every summer we went to the beach for at least, a good, I don't know, 4 or 5 days, all right? And that occasional holiday trip to go see grandma in Utah, the whole family, okay? House on a hill, blah, blah, blah. That was on two teacher incomes. And they probably, I don't know what my parents made. If I'm making, 50s, I don't know, low 60s, high 50s today, they were probably making half of that. And they had all of that. Oh, plus retirement. And what do I have? An 840 square foot condo and 1 Toyota Corolla. No kids. Okay? And if I didn't have this place and I was renting right now, I'd be broke. Welcome to inflation.
Being remote, I mean, you could move further out to a cheaper area.
Easy.
Temporarily. This is not forever, but while you're getting out of debt, get that emergency fund in place. It may be a sacrifice.
And I think if I were paying $1,800 a month rent, forget an emergency fund right now. I mean, when half of your income, more than half, and I can tell you for a lot of public service people, this is half to more than half of their income. I can definitively say that, okay? And I will say it's after my, $200 a month medical insurance and bills are, removed, okay? Because I do budget about $100, $200 a month for all my medical stuff, okay? But come on, I mean, you have professionals, like I said, living like we're college students. We need a roommate. Nothing wrong with a roommate at any age, but a roommate because people are getting gouged on rent. I'm sorry, I think it's gouging. I don't even think it's because, people up north have moved down here. I don't think we can put all the blame on that. I just don't.
I'm the world's worst. I mean, we just moved in October for the first time. I don't move much. I can't stand moving. It's like having a root canal.
Why does Dave hate moving? He's got enough money. He can just simply call college students to come in and pick it up and haul it.
But we moved about 20 minutes further away from downtown Nashville. We were already about 25 minutes out of downtown Nashville.
I want to go visit Nashville sometime. Never been there. I think it'd be neat to go visit it.
I don't go down there that much except to eat. Good food scene in Nashville. But now it feels like we're out in the country. We got to get up. We got to get a list and go to town. It feels like, oh my God, and it's not that much further.
No, it's 5-10 minutes, but it feels
it's 15 minutes. But it just feels there's an emotional adjustment more than a factual adjustment.
Yeah, my wife dealt with that too. We moved to the suburbs with all these families, and she's like, I want to be near Nashville where all the action is, and I can tell, with a young lady like that, you kind of don't want to be
right down there in a minute, though. I mean.
Oh, and speaking of families, if you're trying to rent, where a lot of places you have to have a 2-bedroomer. If you're here in Tampa and you're trying to find a 2-bedroom, that can be very difficult as well. And I'm telling you, these places are not fancy. People might think, okay, you're paying let's say, I don't know, $1,900 a month for a 2-bedroom. If you're lucky, these are very modest areas. I mean, my place was, sitting behind Marshalls. Okay, we're not talking a fancy area. Just everyday working class.
My point is, it's more mental than it is actual.
Yeah.
Sometimes to be further out, and it might change the price equation substantially. 15 minutes might.
Say $500 to be 10 minutes further out.
You're not going to save $500 in the Tampa area, even if you go out at this point, because sprawl is getting so bad. This is why so many people are just staying where they're at. It's like, well, if I'm going to be broke, I might as well be broke 10 minutes from work than try to move out and be broke. And something to keep in mind, folks, when you move out, if you are not moving out to purchase a piece of property, so you say, hey, you know what, I found a place to rent that's cheaper further out. Guess what can happen when the lease comes due? They can just jack it right up. You have to consider that. And sometimes before you move, sometimes it's better, what is it that they say? It's better to keep your enemies close. So like if you know how your property management rental company runs, that can sometimes be better than moving to a new one and you have no idea. But plenty of people have moved to what they thought was cheaper, and then a year later, they're back in the same spot. So just something to consider before you move. It may be cheap in the short run, and then of course you have to consider all the cost of moving. Okay, the financial cost to move everything.
Depending on which direction you went and so on. That kind of thing. It's a way to think about it. I'm not saying that's the answer, but here's a good thing to keep in mind, all of you that are facing rent increases and real estate price increases and everything else. One of the classes I took getting my degree in real estate was urban planning, and generally speaking, with no barriers, which never exists, but with no political or geographical or topographical barriers, if you take the downtown area of the central business district and you drop a pebble there, the rings go out.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and stop this because I think Dave Ramsey's just talking basically about his rental history, and the call is over. So I'll be back with my final thoughts. All right, before I close this particular episode out, rent is as bad as it's ever been in my 56 years, okay? And I will tell you this, I'm going to be really honest. If I had listened to Dave Ramsey on what to do with my money, I would be flat broke today. So while I like Dave Ramsey a lot, you have to keep in mind that you must look at your own individual circumstance. So while he was giving this lady advice and timeline of what to do and not do, I would ultimately tell her, it's been a year, so hopefully she's in a better spot, but I would ultimately tell people you have to do it in the way that you know works for you. If I had listened to Dave Ramsey about following all the baby steps, not getting into more debt. For example, when my late mother left me, a little bit of funds, Dave Ramsey would have told me to immediately pay off my student loan and not buy a piece of property because I would be getting myself into more debt. But the problem that I saw was the place that I was renting at before I bought my condo, it had just been sold to another company. Now, we all know when we're renters what happens when a place gets sold to another company, the rent goes up. Even if they do just very little modest touch-ups to the paint job and whatnot, the rent is going to go up, and sometimes it goes up substantially. So I was at $1,000 a month respectively. It was like $950. My apartment had just been sold, and had I listened to Dave Ramsey would have said, pay off your $100,000 student loan. Don't go out and buy a condo. That's just silly. You're getting yourself into more debt. However, knowing myself and my finances, knowing my particular state of environment with my place having just been sold, I chose to ignore that advice. And I say this because I'm listening to him tell this lady, okay, work on this timeline. You must still use your own facts and your own information. And my own facts and information was, okay, I have a choice. I can either pay off a student loan because, Mr. Ramsey says it's, student loan forgiveness is not going to happen, or I can purchase a condo. But I could not do both. It was going to be one or the other. So I broke all the rules from what Ramsey would normally say, and I said, I'm going to keep the student loan because I believe in PSLF, okay? And I went out and got further into debt, purchased a condo, paid most of it off in full, used part of it to remodel it, okay? Took on a small mortgage, and then I paid that mortgage off in 3 years. And so the mortgage just got paid off last summer in 2022, so a little less than 3 years. But in that time, my old apartment went from $1,000 to $1,800 a month in rent. This is why, I do shudder a little bit when I hear Ramsey say, well, do this, do this, do this. And I'm thinking, do people realize, first off, you don't have to do it that way, and the only one that really knows your financial situation is you. But had I listened to Ramsey, lead people on what to do, I would be flat broke today. I would have paid off a student loan that could have been forgiven at $100,000. I would have lost the opportunity to have had a condo and purchased it. And my condo today that I purchased in 2020 for $100,000 now goes for $200,000 for a 1-bedroom, 840 square feet. So anyways, the rent is bad. Nothing positive to really say about that. So if you can get a roommate, do so. But I think the best suggestion in this video, if you can find that obscure, rich lady, with a little garage in the back, or, maybe a family that has, sort of a mother-in-law suite. They'd love to have a little extra money to help send the kids to private school. That's great. But like I said, but also do it with caution. Be careful. Make sure that the person you're renting from, especially if you're going to go private, isn't in a financial hurt themselves, and you're literally the lifeline. You don't want to be the lifeline in that situation. All right. I'm Carrie. This is Student Loan Chit Chat. Thanks so much for joining me. I do hope you will consider subscribing and have a great day. Bye.